What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome to today's hype video for the Philadelphia Eagles Week 4 matchup against the Tennessee Titans. 2-1 Eagles taking on the Titans, coming off a big upset victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. So what we're going to do today is look at 10 key things, 10 ways Philly can win, 10 talking points for this upcoming game. Get you all ready for it. And I'll give you my prediction at the very end. I'm recording this on Thursday morning because I'm trying to catch up on all my videos, so I still don't have the news, whether Alshon Jeffery, Darren Sproles are going to play or not. So by the time you see this, if that news has been announced, my apologies. I'm just trying to catch up. So let's jump into it. At number 10 for this game between the Eagles and Titans, will Alshon Jeffery play? Will play? And will Darren Sproles play? It looks like maybe one of those three will play. I hope we can get all of them, but it seems unlikely. Maybe we're a week away. But first up, Alshon Jeffery, we need him. I made this argument on Twitter, maybe even a little bit of a hot take. This Philadelphia Eagles team right now, like going from week 3, week 4, I think you could make the argument that Alshon Jeffery's return to the offense would be bigger than Carson Wentz's return. Now, in the grand scheme of things, Carson Wentz is the franchise quarterback. He's an MVP caliber type player, or at least that's what he was the last time we saw him. So he is the most important player on this team, the most important player in this franchise. But Nick Foles wasn't doing terrible. I mean, you look at his game against the Bucs. He had 355 passing yards, and he wasn't the reason why we lost that game. It had an excellent touchdown pass to Nelson Agholor. Yes, Carson Wentz is a big upgrade on Nick Foles, but Nick Foles wasn't costing us games. Nick Foles wasn't the reason this offense was stagnant. And, even though I admit that if Nick Foles was our quarterback against the Colts, we probably would have lost because some of the plays Carson Wentz did, Nick Foles simply couldn't, and they were very important plays in that game. But that drop-off from Foles to Wentz, not as big as the drop-off that we are seeing right now between Kamar Aiken and what we get in Alshon Jeffery, or Josh Perkins, a tight end wide receiver hybrid that we'd get with Alshon Jeffery. Alshon Jeffery right now will make this offense go at full speed. He will open up things for Zach Ertz, for Dallas Goedert, for Nelson Agholor, all those guys that have been kind of productive right now. They'd be uber productive with Alshon Jeffery commanding double teams on the outside. Plus, just in general, Alshon Jeffery's talent. I made this thing where I said Alshon Jeffery in this offense is a top 10 wide receiver. I'm not going to go on like, C4, list out all your wide receivers in the National Football League and rank them. Alshon probably, if I was doing that, would be 12 or 13 every time I try to make a list. Maybe 10 if I'm being generous. But in this offense, with Carson Wentz throwing him the ball, with Doug Peterson's schemes, Alshon Jeffery is a top 10 wide receiver. Just watch the playoffs, man. Watch the play. Alshon Jeffery was the best wide receiver in the playoffs last year. Don't even at me. All of his plays that he made were huge. He made crucial catches, insane touchdowns. There you go. I'll stick it myself on a limb and say that with my homer hat on, that Alshon Jeffery was the best wide receiver in the playoffs last year, and you saw his importance to this offense. So we desperately need him back. I don't know. It looks like it's probably going to be 50-50 if he's going to play or not. As we look to J.J. and Darren Sproles, obviously if J.J. returns, he'll be the bell cow back. But for me, if Darren Sproles returns, that means Corey Clement can get off special teams duty, and we can give Corey Clement more snaps. Now, Wendell Smallwood did pretty good last week against the Colts, had a couple of big-time runs, but I still think that Corey Clement deserves more snaps than Smallwood and would maybe be a little bit more productive than Wendell Smallwood would. But I'm still happy with those guys. It always kind of sounds like I'm shitting on Wendell Smallwood a little bit, and that's maybe because I am a huge Corey Clement fan. I want to see him succeed, but it all comes down to the Eagles, and whatever we have back there in the backfield, be it Wendell, be it Josh Adams, be it Darren Sproles, J.J., Corey Clement, I want them to succeed. I just want to see maybe a little bit more production, and I think we might be able to get that if Darren Sproles is on special teams, which therefore would mean more reps for Corey Clement, you would assume. Going to number 9, who will step in for Rodney McLeod? Now, this could be the perfect opportunity for Jalen Mills, who, while I would say 80% of the fan base wants him cut, 80% of the fan base wants him benched, I am in the small minority that thinks that if you took Jalen Mills and you move him to safety, we are going to have a top 15 safety, a top 15 type safety, a safety that's above average to good with a ceiling to be even better. Jalen Mills, you look at his skill set, what he sucks at are things safeties, if you had them playing corner, would suck at. Getting beat deep by speedier guys, biting on double moves. What Jalen Mills is good at, covering tight ends, covering big-bodied wide receivers, covering running backs, and open field tackling. Those are the traits of a safety. Now, last week he graded out really well from Pro Football Focus. You know what? PFF, it's inconsistent, but you move him to safety, you're going to see a lot more of those performances than what we're going to get with him sticking at wide receiver, where he has 2 good games, 4 terrible games, 1 insane game, 2 average games. It's so up and down with him. He's so sporadic. I think if you move him to safety, you're going to get a lot more consistent play. And if you have him at safety with Malcolm Jenkins, you have probably 2 of the best pure cover safeties in the league, because where Jalen Mills, has his struggles and has his issues at wide receiver, you move him to safety. I mean, that's just a skill set that a lot of safeties don't have. A lot of safeties aren't these guys that had a lot of playing time at the cornerback spot and then made the transition. And that's also kind of what Jim Schwartz looks for in a safety. That's kind of why Rodney McLeod was hung out to dry a lot of times, because he's not a cover guy, and he'd get beat. He's in the box type safety, and you'd see where Jim Schwartz could go, yeah, if you had 2 cover guys, I mean, Rodney McLeod might not make the mistakes he has, because you're trying to utilize a skill set that he doesn't have, but a skill set that Jalen Mills does have. Now, there was a press conference the other day where no one really knew the extent of the injury to Rodney McLeod, but Rasul Douglas' name was the number 1 guy coming up, and I was kind of frustrated because, come on, just move Jalen Mills back there. But, I mean, Rasul Douglas, hey, there's another one. If you have to, I just think Rasul Douglas is too good, and he gets too many turnovers to not be on the field. And if he has to go to safety, where I don't think he's as good or as good of a fit as Jalen Mills would be, it's still just finding a way to get your best DBs on the field. And Rasul Douglas, I would say, might be the biggest hitter in the secondary, even though he is a corner, and Malcolm Jenkins had that big hit against Brandon Cooks in the Super Bowl. I think more consistently last year, Rasul Douglas, when he was getting snaps, he was laying the lumber on some dudes. So from that standpoint, it would be interesting to see him at safety, and I would not be upset about that. But my gut right now feels like Philadelphia does the same thing. They put Corey Graham back there, and that the DeAndre Hall guy we traded like a 7th-round pick or conditional 7th-round pick to the Bears right before the season began. I think those 2 guys they're going to rely on more, which is frustrating. But also, I mean, Corey Graham was a big part of that defense for that Super Bowl run. Had a bunch of big plays, really strong, consistent play. So, I mean, it's not that big of a drop-off between Corey Graham and Rodney McLeod, I don't think. So, even though it's not probably the answer a lot of people want, they want to see Jalen Mills, they want to see Rasul Douglas, we probably still could do a lot worse than Corey Graham. And in before everyone says, hey, C4, here are the 19 unrealistic ways we could trade for Earl Thomas. Going to number 8. Derrick Henry is the style of running back that struggles versus the Eagles. Smash mouth type runners do not have good games against Philadelphia's front 7. It's just a fact. Sometimes it could happen. Most times they get shut down. So when I look at the Titans offense, I'm seeing Dion Lewis, that shiftier type back. He could be a problem. Or if Mariota, because his arm's not 100%, they're not throwing the ball particularly well. If Mariota on a couple keepers, running the ball downfield, he's a great athlete. He could cause a lot of issues. For whatever reason, a Jim Schwartz defense, these guys we have, they look like Bambi on ice when they have to try to tackle a quarterback. You saw it with how many times with Kirk Cousins on 3rd and long against the Redskins last year. He would just keep the ball and run for it because our defense looked clueless. And I'm a little bit worried right now that the same thing could happen with Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans. I'm calling it right now. You will see at least 1 3rd and long that Mariota will convert, and everyone's going to get super frustrated about. Bank on it. But speaking of Mariota, going to number 7, he isn't 100%. He is not 100%. I mean, he's never really been the guy that we thought he was going to be from Oregon. But, when he is healthy, he's, hot and cold. He's streaky. He can have a big game, can have a bad game. But the fact that he's not 100%, I'm not really worried right now about him taking the game over. I think this week it's going to be more so, Mariota not turning the ball over, trying to play a clean game and let the defense and special teams win it for the Titans. So I guess that's good for Philly that maybe the most electrifying player on the Titans offense isn't 100%. Go to number 6 is the Titans have the worst passing attack in the league. Their best wide receiver numbers, actually, literally, their second best wide receiver behind Corey Davis, who hasn't even been that impressive, is a safety who caught a trick play. So with Philadelphia having ups and downs so far with our secondary, we should feel somewhat confident that, it's not going to be the Tampa Bay Bucs. It's not going to be an air raid show where our corners are going to get beat like a drum left, right, and center, which is, that's always going to be a positive. Going number 5, Titans have a very legit defense. Jarrell Casey matched upon Kelsey in the middle could be a problem. Casey's having an underrated season already. I think he's like 2 or 3 sacks, a couple forced fumbles. And, Jason Kelsey is a guy that, while he is maybe the best run-blocking center in the league and getting ahead of guys and pretty much being a glorified fullback, he does struggle in pass protection. If they have Jarrell Casey just sitting in there on Jason Kelsey, could be a little bit of a problem. You get Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler, if I played in the Super Bowl, we would have won kind of guy. He gets his shot against the Eagles. Let's see what he can do. Number 4 is Tennessee. No matter how ugly that was, they're coming off a win versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have a lot of momentum, and they're at home. You can't ignore that. No matter what we think about Tennessee, what we think about their passing attack, what we think about Marcus Mariota, they have a lot of confidence right now. They're coming off a massive upset, and they have home field advantage. So, those are the kind of things. Those are the momentum shifts. Those are the intangibles that you can't really qualify when you're trying to make the assessment, the prediction on this game on paper. Those kind of things, when you have those going your way, it just feels like the bounces, the calls also will go your way. So this is, there could be a problem there. Going to number 3. Can a wide receiver, if Alshon Jeffery can't go, step up? We had so many 3 tight end sets against the Colts. I've never seen that before in my life, where we had so many offensive plays where we just had Nelson Agholor out there wide receiver. You're not going to win a lot of games with just playing one wide receiver. We're seeing, teams like the Patriots right now, because they don't have that outside guy. They don't even have their slot guys. They pretty much have to utilize and go through their tight ends in their offense. They do have Chris Hogan, but you know what I'm saying. And it's not a recipe for success, especially when you're going up against a team that's going to be coached well defensively and will be doing their damnedest to take away your tight ends. Because last week against the Colts, it was pretty much the Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert show. So we need to see a wide receiver step up. Be it Nelson Agholor, be it Jordan Matthews, someone needs to do something. And if we talk about Nelson Agholor, I kind of stated at the very beginning of the season, he's a guy that wants to get a new contract, right? Well, he's going to get paid like a slot wide receiver. He is a slot wide receiver. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. In Alshon Jeffery's absence, we were looking for him to step up like, man, this guy here is a wide receiver 1. This guy here is an outside wide receiver. That has not been the case. He is a guy that very much needs a guy like Alshon Jeffery to take the double teams off him so he can kind of have the middle of the field open to make plays, which is perfectly fine. There is a role for Nelson Agholor in this offense, but when it comes to contract time, if we value him as a slot wide receiver, and his agent says, yeah, either yes and pay me like Jarvis Landry, not going to happen, or if he tries to have some sort of valuation that simply does not line up for the market for slot wide receivers, maybe it's time to say bye to Nelson, because he has not stepped up as an outside playmaker when we needed him to. Going to number 2, what line can impose their will? The Philadelphia Eagles D-line or the Tennessee Titans offensive line? I think when you're trying to look at the best skill groups on either team, you probably would say that's going to be it. The Eagles D-line versus the Titans offensive line. Titans are a team that needs to control the line of scrimmage for them to win. And the Philadelphia Eagles defense has been just on a wrecking path for the most part. Pretty much every game aside the Tampa Bay game. And that was just a game plan. I think the game plan was brutal there. So, Fletcher Cox trying to become Defensive Player of the Year. Prove it. Prove it against a good offensive line. And number 1, my gut says that this is going to be another ugly game for the Tennessee Titans, and the team with the better special teams could very well be the winner. Very similar to the Jacksonville, Tennessee game. I feel like our offense with Philly, I have a gut feeling that Alshon Jeffery's not going to play. We might get a Ajayi, might get a Darren Sproles, but that's still not enough. We need Alshon back, and until then, I think our offense is going to be hindered a little bit, and it's not going to be our full form, which means it's going to come down to the defense. It's going to come down to making kicks, and Jake Elliott has been inconsistent. He's hot and cold. He's streaky. He misses the short ones, makes the hard ones. It's going to be a battle, man. This is going to be like one of those games where it feels kind of like the Colts game, where it's like, all right, first team that scores a touchdown is going to win. So my prediction for this game is Philadelphia 17, Tennessee 10. MVP, game ball, if you will, goes to Zach Ertz and Fletcher Cox. So let me know, guys, in the comments what your predictions are for this game. What matchups are you looking for between the Eagles and Titans? And that does it for me here today. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you're hyped for this upcoming game for the Eagles to potentially move on to 3-1. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.